The alarm bells rang through the USS Defiance as Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive ship floating in front of them. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The vessel looked like it was made of pure crystal, glowing with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jake had been exploring space for 3 years since Earth discovered faster-than-light travel, but this was their first meeting with aliens. "Captain, they're trying to talk to us," said Lieutenant Commander Katie Brooks from her position at the communications station. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as strange sounds filled the bridge. "Can you understand them?" Jake asked, walking closer to her station. The bridge crew of 20 humans all watched the screens with wide eyes. This was the moment they had all dreamed about and feared. Katie shook her head. "Not yet, but the computer is working on it. Wait, I think it's learning their language." The sounds became clearer, and soon a voice spoke in perfect English. "Greetings, primitive vessel. I am Ambassador Zeth Ka of the Zalathi people. You will prepare to be boarded for inspection and classification." Jake felt his jaw tighten at the word primitive, but he kept his voice calm. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Defiance. We come in peace and would welcome the chance to meet with you." There was a long pause before the alien voice spoke again. "Humans. Yes, we have heard rumors of your kind. You are the ones who still wage war upon your own world, are you not? How unfortunate. Prepare for transport." Before Jake could respond, the bridge filled with bright light. When it faded, 3 beings stood before them. The first was tall and seemed to be made of living crystal, its body shifting between blue and purple colors. The second looked like a cloud of gas held together in a vaguely human shape, constantly moving and changing. The third was the most disturbing, an insect-like creature with 6 arms and compound eyes that reflected everything around it. "I am Zeth Ka," said the crystal being, its voice coming from somewhere inside its body. "This is Vrex Overlord Vashku and Korthan Hivemind Unit Thax 9. We represent the Galactic Council, the governing body of this galaxy." Jake stepped forward, trying to look confident despite his racing heart. "Welcome aboard our ship. We're honored to meet representatives of your council." Zeth Ka made a sound that might have been laughter. "How quaint. You speak as if you have a choice in this matter." The crystal being moved around the bridge, examining the human technology with obvious disdain. "Your equipment is so basic. Tell me, human, how many of your kind died in wars last year?" The question caught Jake off guard. "I don't have exact numbers with me, but millions, no doubt," interrupted the gas being called Vashku. Its voice sounded like wind through leaves. "Your species cannot even achieve peace among themselves. How can you be trusted with the greater galaxy?" The insect creature Thax 9 clicked its mandibles together. "The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years. We have eliminated war, hunger, and conflict from civilized space. Your kind represents everything we have worked to leave behind." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. His crew was watching him, and he knew that whatever happened here would determine humanity's future among the stars. "We may have had conflicts in our past, but we're learning. We've come out here to explore and learn from others." "How generous of you," Zeth Ka said, the sarcasm clear even through the alien voice. "The Council has decided to offer your species a place in our civilization. You will be classified as a Class 3 emerging species and placed under our protection." "What does that mean exactly?" asked Katie from her station. Vashku floated closer to her, and Katie tried not to flinch as the gas being examined her. "It means you will serve. Your people will work in our mines, build our ships, and perform other tasks suitable for your development level. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of space and guide your species toward a more civilized future." Jake's hands clenched into fists behind his back. "And if we refuse this generous offer?" The 3 aliens looked at each other, and Jake could sense some kind of silent conversation happening between them. Finally, Thax 9 spoke. "Refusal is not recommended. Species that reject Council guidance rarely survive long in the galaxy. Space is dangerous for those without proper protection." "We understand," Jake said carefully. But we would need to discuss this with our government on Earth before making any decisions. Of course, Zethka replied. You will be given a small outpost on the frontier world of Kepler 442b, while your leaders consider our offer. It is far from any important systems, where you can do no harm while you adapt to galactic civilization. The message was clear. Humanity was being sent to the middle of nowhere, away from anything important. Jake nodded slowly. We appreciate your patience with us. After the aliens left, Jake called his senior staff to his ready room. Besides Katie, there was Chief Engineer Ryan Collins, a tough man from Texas who had designed much of their ship's systems. Also present was Dr. Elena Vasquez, their science officer who specialized in alien cultures and biology. Well, that was humiliating, Ryan said, slumping in his chair. They treated us like children. Dangerous children, Elena added. Did you notice how they kept bringing up our wars? They see us as violent primitives. Jake sat behind his desk, his mind racing. Maybe that's not entirely bad. If they think we're just primitive barbarians, they won't see us as a threat. Katie raised an eyebrow. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking we need to learn everything we can about these council species and their technology. While we play the part of grateful newcomers, Jake replied. Start recording everything. Their ship designs, their energy signatures, the way they talk to each other. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Ryan grinned. I like where this is going. Their tech is definitely more advanced than ours, but it doesn't seem that much more advanced. Give me a few months to study their systems, and I bet I can figure out how they work. Be careful, Elena warned. These beings have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They didn't get there by being weak or stupid. No, Jake agreed. But they got there 3,000 years ago. The question is, have they gotten soft since then? Did you see how surprised they were when I asked about refusing their offer? It's like the idea of resistance never occurred to them. Katie nodded slowly. And that gas being, Vashku, kept talking about intimidation and superior technology, rather than actual fighting. When was the last time they had to deal with real opposition? Exactly, Jake said, standing up. We're going to play their game for now. We'll go to their frontier world, set up our little outpost, and be the grateful primitives they expect us to be. But while we're doing that, we're going to learn everything we can about them. And then what? Ryan asked. Jake looked out the window at the crystal ship still floating nearby. Then we'll see if 3,000 years of peace has made them forget how to fight. The next few hours were busy as the USS Defiance prepared to follow the Council ships to Kepler 442b. Jake made sure that every piece of data they had collected was transmitted back to Earth using their quantum communication system. General Lisa Hart and the other military leaders needed to know what humanity was facing. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake thought about the three alien representatives. Zethka had been condescending, but seemed to genuinely believe the Council was helping humanity. Vashku had been more threatening, talking about protection that sounded more like extortion. But it was Thax 9 that worried him most. The insect being had said very little, but its compound eyes had been constantly moving, watching everything. When they arrived at Kepler 442b, Jake had to admit it was a beautiful world. Green continents and blue oceans covered most of the surface, with white clouds swirling through a healthy atmosphere. It would make a good home for human colonists if they were actually planning to stay. The Council ships left them at the planet with basic supplies and a communication device for contacting the Council. As Jake watched their crystal and metal ships disappear into hyperspace, he felt a mixture of relief and determination. Katie, send a message to Earth, he ordered. Tell them we've made contact and we're beginning the next phase of the plan. What plan is that, sir? She asked. Jake smiled grimly as he looked down at the planet that was supposed to be humanity's prison. The plan to show these Council species that 3,000 years of peace might have been a little too long. 6 months had passed since the USS Defiance arrived at Kepler 442b, and the human settlement was thriving beyond what anyone expected. Captain Jake Morrison, now called Ambassador Morrison by the Galactic Council, stood on the observation deck of their main base watching ships come and go from the planet's surface. The council representatives visited every few weeks, always pleased with human progress. They saw efficient mining operations, growing food production, and humans who seemed grateful for their guidance. What they did not see was the hidden network of laboratories, weapon testing facilities, and communication centers built deep underground. "Ambassador, we have another council ship requesting permission to land," announced Katie Brooks, who now served as Morrison's deputy. She had become skilled at playing the role of the respectful human servant while secretly coordinating intelligence operations. "Let them land at the main platform," Morrison replied. "Make sure they see the new mineral processing plant. They love seeing us work hard for them." The visiting ship belonged to Zeth Ka, the crystal being who had first contacted humanity. Morrison met the alien at the landing platform, surrounded by human workers who bowed respectfully as the council representative passed. "Greetings, Ambassador Morrison," Zeth Ka said, its crystal body glowing with satisfaction. "The council is most pleased with your species' adaptation to galactic civilization. Your mining output has exceeded expectations by 30%. We live to serve the council," Morrison replied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. "My people understand that hard work is the path to advancement." As they walked through the settlement, Morrison pointed out various improvements: new housing units for the growing population, expanded farming areas, and workshops where humans built tools and equipment for council use. Everything looked exactly like what the council expected to see from a grateful client species. What Zeth Ka could not see were the hidden entrances to the underground facilities, where Dr. Amanda Price and her team worked around the clock. The brilliant scientist had been secretly transported to Kepler 442b, along with Earth's best engineers and researchers. While the council thought they were watching primitive humans learning to use alien tools, Price and her team were actually reverse engineering every piece of council technology they could get their hands on. "Your species shows remarkable aptitude for learning," Zeth Ka observed as they watched human workers operating alien mining equipment. "Perhaps in 50 years, you might be ready for Class 2 status. We hope to prove worthy of the council's trust," Morrison said, knowing that 50 years was far longer than humanity planned to wait. After Zeth Ka's ship departed, Morrison descended through hidden passages to the underground command center. The facility stretched for miles beneath the surface, housing laboratories, training facilities, and communication equipment that could reach across the galaxy without council detection. Dr. Elena Vasquez met him at the entrance, her face excited. "Jake, you need to see what we've discovered. The council isn't as united as they pretend to be." They walked through corridors lined with stolen council technology being taken apart and studied. Human engineers worked alongside alien equipment, their faces focused and determined. These were Earth's best minds, secretly brought to the planet, to prepare for what everyone knew was coming. In the main laboratory, Dr. Price looked up from a disassembled Zalathi power core. "Ambassador, we've made a breakthrough. Their energy systems are actually quite simple once you understand the principles. We can not only copy them, we can improve them." "How much better?" Morrison asked. Price smiled. "About 40% more efficient, and they can be overloaded to create some very interesting effects. The council has been using the same basic designs for centuries. They stopped innovating." Lieutenant Colonel Alex Stone appeared from a side passage, his face grim. Stone led the covert intelligence operations that had been mapping council space and studying their military capabilities. "Jake, we need to talk. I've got news from the outer territories." They moved to a secure briefing room where Stone activated a holographic display showing a star map. Red dots marked council military installations, while blue dots showed human observation posts that had been secretly established throughout the region. "The council's military is even weaker than we thought," Stone began. "They have impressive ships and powerful weapons, but their tactics are terrible. They rely entirely on intimidation and technological superiority. When was the last time they actually fought a war?" 3,000 years ago when they conquered the galaxy," Morrison replied. "Exactly. And it shows. I've been monitoring their patrol patterns, their communication protocols, their response times. Jake, they're sitting ducks. Their entire military doctrine is based on showing up with overwhelming force until the enemy surrenders. They have no idea how to handle actual resistance. Elena pulled up another display showing intercepted Council communications. It gets better. We've been listening to their private channels, and there are cracks in their alliance. The Virex think the Zelathi are too soft on new species. The Korthans believe they should be the dominant species instead of equals. Some of the smaller council members are starting to question whether the current system is fair. Morrison studied the information, his mind working through possibilities. What about military assets? If we had to fight them, what would we be facing? Stone changed the display to show council fleet positions. They have numbers, but their ships are designed for intimidation rather than combat efficiency. Heavy armor, powerful weapons, but slow and predictable. A human fighter wing could probably take out a council battle cruiser if they used the right tactics. Speaking of tactics, Price interrupted, I have something to show you. She led them to another section of the laboratory where a strange device sat on a workbench. It looked like a combination of human and alien technology, sleek and deadly. What is it? Morrison asked. Something that shouldn't exist according to Council science, Price replied proudly. We've combined their energy technology with our kinetic weapons. It creates a projectile that can punch through their shields and armor like they're made of paper. Stone whistled appreciatively. How many of these can you make? As many as we need, given time and resources. The Council keeps sending us raw materials, thinking we're just using them for mining equipment. They have no idea we're building weapons. Morrison felt a surge of hope mixed with concern. This is all impressive, but we're still just one planet. The Council has thousands of worlds and millions of ships. Not exactly, Elena said, pulling up another display. Remember, most Council species are non-combatants. They've lived in peace for so long that they've forgotten how to fight. The actual military forces are smaller than their propaganda suggests. Plus, Stone added, we're not planning to fight them alone. My intelligence network has made contact with several dissident groups within Council space, species that are tired of being told what to do by the Council leadership. They're not ready to rebel yet, but they're listening. Morrison walked to the window that looked out over the underground facility. Hundreds of humans worked at various tasks, all preparing for a war that might come sooner than anyone expected. What about Earth? Are they ready? Admiral Troy Bennett reports that the home fleet is being upgraded with our new technology, Stone replied. General Lisa Hart has been training Special Forces units in anti-alien tactics. They're calling it Operation Starfall. And Dr. Nick Torres has been working on something he calls Project Prometheus Q, Price added. He won't tell me exactly what it is, but he says it will give us a decisive advantage when the time comes. A soft alarm chimed, and Katie's voice came over the communication system. Ambassador, we have an incoming message from Earth, Priority Alpha. Morrison and his team quickly made their way to the communication center, where a large screen showed General Hart's stern face. The transmission was encrypted and routed through several relay stations to avoid Council detection. Ambassador Morrison, we have a problem, Hart began without preamble. Our long-range scouts have detected Council ships massing near the Sol system. They're not making any hostile moves yet, but something has made them suspicious. Morrison felt his stomach drop. Do we know what triggered their interest? We're not sure, but we think they may have detected some of our technological improvements. A few of our newer ships were spotted by Council patrols, and their energy signatures were different enough to raise questions. Stone leaned forward. General, what's the timeline? How long do we have? Unknown, but probably not long. We need to accelerate our preparations. How soon can your people be ready for full operations? Morrison looked at his team, seeing determination in their faces. Give us 2 weeks to finish the current projects. We can be ready to move by then. Hart nodded grimly. Make it 1 week. Something tells me we're running out of time faster than we thought. After the transmission ended, Morrison stood in the command center surrounded by his advisors. The underground facility buzzed with activity as humans prepared for what everyone knew was coming. 1 week, he said quietly. Can we do it? Price checked her notes. The weapon systems will be ready. We have enough for the first wave of attacks. The council chambers on Zentros Prime hummed with quiet conversation as the 12 species that ruled the galaxy gathered for their monthly meeting. Ambassador Zeth Ka of the Zalathi floated near the center of the circular room, its crystal body glowing with satisfaction as it prepared to give its report on humanity. Fellow council members, Zeth Ka began, I am pleased to report that the human integration continues to exceed expectations. Their mining output has increased another 15%, and they have requested permission to expand their operations to 3 additional worlds. Vrex Overlord Vashku shifted in its containment field, the gas being's form rippling with approval. Excellent. Perhaps this species will prove more useful than we initially predicted. Have they shown any signs of their previous aggressive tendencies? None whatsoever, Zeth Ka replied. They appear genuinely grateful for our guidance. Ambassador Sir Morrison sends regular reports praising council wisdom and requesting additional responsibilities for his people. In the back of the chamber, Corthan Hivemind Unit Thax 9 clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. This rapid adaptation is unusual. Most species require decades to fully accept council authority. Some species are simply more intelligent than others, suggested Aequion Council swimmer Reef Singer, its blue skin glistening under the chamber lights. The humans may have been violent, but they learn quickly. Unknown to the council, their conversation was being monitored by Lieutenant Colonel Alex, Stone's intelligence network. Hidden devices planted months earlier transmitted every word back to the human command center on Kepler 442b, where Ambassador Morrison and his team listened with growing tension. They're about to make their announcement, Morrison said grimly, watching the council session on their screens. Everyone ready? Dr. Amanda Price nodded from her position at the weapons control station. All systems are prepared. The moment they reveal their true intentions, we can begin Operation Starfall. On the screen, Zeth Ka was continuing its report. The council has decided that the human experiment has been so successful, we should move to the next phase of their development. We will relocate them from Kepler 442b to a more suitable world. Morrison felt his jaw clench as he watched the alien beings discuss humanity's future like they were trading livestock. The new world, designated as Sector 7 Gamma, will provide excellent opportunities for the humans to develop their mining and manufacturing capabilities, Zeth Ka continued. It has abundant resources and will allow for better supervision of their activities. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had spent months studying council psychology, shook her head. Sector 7 Gamma is a wasteland, barely habitable, with limited resources. They're not upgrading us, they're isolating us. On the screen, Vashku was speaking now. What of the human leadership? Have they been properly conditioned for the transition? Ambassador Morrison has been most cooperative, Zeth Ka replied. However, we believe it would be beneficial to implement the standard leadership modification protocols. A few minor adjustments to their thinking patterns will ensure continued compliance. Morrison's blood ran cold. Leadership modification protocols? Stone quickly accessed his intelligence files. I've heard references to this before. The Council has been secretly altering the brain chemistry of species leaders to make them more compliant. They've been planning to do the same to you. The revelation hit Morrison like a physical blow. The Council had never intended to treat humanity as equals. They were planning to turn him into a puppet, chemically altered to serve their interests, without question. On the screen, Thax 9 was providing more disturbing details. The modification process has proven quite effective with other species. The human children we have been studying show particular promise for full integration into Council society. Human children? Morrison whispered. Elena's face went pale as she accessed another data stream. Jake, they've been taking human children from the colony's small numbers, supposedly for educational exchanges. But according to this data, they've been conducting medical experiments on them. The chamber fell silent as everyone processed this information. The Council had not just been planning to relocate humanity to a prison world and alter their leaders' minds. They had been secretly experimenting on human children. Morrison stood, slowly, his hands shaking with rage. Send the signal. Operation Starfall begins now. Across human space, the coded transmission reached every human ship, base, and outpost simultaneously. The message was simple. The children must be protected. Captain Oliver Kane stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Built in secret using stolen Council technology and human innovations, it was invisible to Council sensors and armed with weapons that could tear through their defenses. "Captain, we have the go signal," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jamie Sullivan. "All ships are in position." Kane looked out at the Zalathi crystal harvesting fleet floating peacefully in space ahead of them. The aliens had no idea that 10 human warships were surrounding them, weapons charged and ready to fire. "For the children," Kane said quietly. "All ships, open fire." The first shots came without warning. Human weapons designed specifically to disrupt Zalathi energy matrices struck the crystal ships with devastating effect. The aliens' energy-based hulls, which had protected them for thousands of years, cracked and shattered under the unexpected assault. On the Zalathi command ship, alarm signals screamed as the vessel shook under repeated hits. Commander Zefka, a relative of the Council ambassador, stared in disbelief at the tactical displays. "Impossible," Zefka whispered. "There are no ships on our sensors. How are we being attacked?" The answer came as human ships decloaked around the fleet, their sleek forms materializing from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. The Zalathi had never seen technology like this. Their 3,000-year-old sensor systems could not detect the human stealth ships until it was too late. "Emergency transmission to the Council," Zefka ordered. "We are under attack by unknown forces. Repeat, we are under attack." But the transmission never reached Zentros Prime. Human jammers filled the communication channels with static, cutting the Zalathi off from any hope of calling for help. Captain Kane watched as the alien fleet tried to fight back. Their weapons were powerful but slow, designed for intimidation rather than combat. The human ships moved with precision and speed, dancing around the lumbering Council vessels like fighters attacking giants. "Target their command ship," Kane ordered. "End this quickly." The USS Retribution's main weapon, a hybrid of human kinetic technology and alien energy systems, fired a single devastating shot. The beam struck the Zalathi command ship's crystal core, and the entire vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of blue light. Within an hour, the entire Zalathi harvesting fleet was destroyed. Not a single human ship had been seriously damaged. Similar attacks were happening across Council space. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Reed led a strike against a Virex gas mining platform, using specially designed weapons that ignited the aliens' gaseous forms. Commander Rachel Davis attacked a Corthan hive ship, her forces exploiting the insects' inability to function independently when their hive mind link was disrupted. On Zentros Prime, the Council chamber erupted in chaos as reports of the attacks reached them. Zethka's crystal body flickered with panic as it tried to process what was happening. "Impossible!" Vashku screamed, its gaseous form swirling frantically. "The humans are a Class 3 species. They do not have the technology for such attacks." Thax 9's compound eyes reflected the flashing emergency lights. "Perhaps we underestimated their capabilities. Order all fleets to converge on human space," Zethka commanded. "We will crush this rebellion before it spreads." But even as the Council issued their orders, more reports arrived. Human forces had attacked supply convoys, communication stations, and military outposts across 12 sectors. Worse, several client species were beginning to rebel, inspired by humanity's example. On Kepler 442b, Morrison stood in the command center watching the tactical displays. The first phase of Operation Starfall had succeeded beyond their best expectations. Council forces were in disarray, and their client species were starting to question Council authority. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from several Council installations," reported Katie Brooks. "They're asking for terms." Morrison shook his head. "No surrender, not yet. They need to understand that this is not a negotiation. This is justice." "Dr." Price looked up from her weapons console. "Jake, the Council will respond with everything they have. Are we ready for a full-scale war?" Morrison thought about the human children who had been subjected to alien experiments, about the plans to chemically alter human leaders, about the prison world where the Council had planned to slowly strangle humanity's growth. Dr. Price. 3. Hours ago, the Council thought we were grateful servants. Now they know we can fight, but they still don't understand what they're really facing. What's that? Price asked. Morrison turned to address the entire command center, his voice carrying to every human in the facility. They're facing a species that will never again bow to anyone. They wanted to make us into something we're not. Instead, they've created something they never expected. The massive Council fleet emerged from hyperspace like an angry storm cloud, hundreds of ships stretching across the darkness of space. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, watching the enemy formation through the viewscreen. The Council had finally responded to humanity's attacks with overwhelming force, just as his intelligence reports had predicted they would. Count them, Kane ordered his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jamie Sullivan. 437. Ships, sir, Sullivan reported. Zalathi crystal dreadnoughts, Vrex gas cloud carriers, Korthan hive ships, and support vessels from at least 6 other species. Kane nodded grimly. The Council was trying to end the human rebellion with a show of massive force, believing that the sight of their grand fleet would terrify humanity into surrender. They had no idea that human forces had been preparing for exactly this moment. Any response to their surrender demands? Asked Commander Marcus Reed from the weapons station. None, Kane replied. Let them think we're too scared to answer. 3 days earlier, the Council had sent a message to every human world demanding immediate surrender and the delivery of all human leaders for trial. The message had promised mercy for humanity if they complied, but punishment beyond imagination if they continued to resist. The human response had been silence, followed by more attacks on Council installations across the galaxy. In the Council flagship, a massive Zalathi crystal ship called the Eternal Light, the 3 primary Council leaders stood in their command chamber studying tactical displays. Zethka's crystal body pulsed with anger while Vashku swirled in agitation. Thax 9 remained still, its compound eyes analyzing the empty space ahead. Where are they? Vashku demanded. Our sensors show no human ships in this system. They must be hiding behind the planet, Zethka replied. Typical primitive behavior. They know they cannot face our fleet in open battle. Thax 9 clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. The humans have shown unexpected capabilities. Perhaps we should be more cautious. Caution? Vashku's gaseous form rippled with contempt. We have over 400 ships. The humans have perhaps 50 vessels total. This will be a massacre. What the Council did not know was that Admiral Kane's fleet was indeed hiding, but not behind the planet. Using advanced stealth technology developed by Dr. Amanda Price's team, 30 human warships floated invisible around the Council formation, their crews waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Kane watched as the Council fleet moved into the trap. The alien ships flew in tight formations, presenting impressive displays of power but leaving themselves vulnerable to coordinated attacks. After 3,000 years of peace, they had forgotten the basic rules of combat. All ships, this is Admiral Kane, he transmitted on the encrypted human frequency. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We want to cripple their leadership and break their will to fight. Target command ships and communication vessels first. Lieutenant Sullivan checked her weapons console. Sir, all ships report ready. We have firing solutions on 12 primary targets. Kane took a deep breath. The next few minutes would determine whether humanity could stand against the full might of the Galactic Council. All ships decloak and open fire. Space erupted in brilliant flashes as 30 human ships suddenly appeared around the Council fleet. The aliens had no time to react before human weapons began tearing through their formations. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before shuddered under impacts from weapons they could not defend against. On the Eternal Light, alarms screamed as the bridge shook under repeated hits. Zethka's crystal form flickered between colors as it tried to process what was happening. Impossible, the alien commander shouted. Where did they come from? Our sensors detected nothing. Thax 9 was already working at a tactical station, its 6 arms moving quickly over the controls. The humans have technology we do not understand. Their ships were completely invisible to our sensors until they fired. Return fire, Vashku ordered. Destroy them all. But the Council's response was slow and uncoordinated. Their ships had been designed for intimidation, with powerful weapons but poor maneuverability. The human vessels danced around them like hunters surrounding massive prey, striking at weak points and disappearing before the Council could target them effectively. Captain Nicole Bell, commanding the destroyer USS Falcon, led her ship in a devastating attack run against a Vrex carrier. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Tony Martinez, fired specialized rounds designed to ignite the gaseous alien's atmosphere. Direct hit on their main gas chambers, Martinez reported. The ship is burning from the inside. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human forces exploited every weakness they had discovered during months of secret observation. Korthan hive ships found their communications jammed, leaving individual units unable to coordinate. Zelathi crystal ships cracked under weapons designed specifically to disrupt their energy matrices. The battle should have been hopeless for humanity. The Council fleet was nearly 15 times larger and had weapons that could destroy planets. But the aliens fought like they were participating in a ceremonial display rather than a real battle. Their tactics were 3,000 years out of date, and they had no experience dealing with opponents who refused to be intimidated. Admiral Kane watched as the Council formation began to fall apart. Several alien ships were already retreating, their commanders unable to comprehend how their superior technology was being defeated by primitive humans. "Admiral, we're getting surrender signals from multiple Council vessels," reported Commander Reed. "Ignore them," Kane replied. "We're not here to accept surrender. We're here to send a message." That message became clear as human forces concentrated their fire on the Council's command ships. One by one, the vessels carrying Council leaders and their communication equipment were disabled or destroyed. The Eternal Light, despite its massive size and crystal armor, found itself surrounded by 6 human ships firing in perfect coordination. Zethka's crystal body was cracking under the stress as the ship shook around it. "This cannot be happening. We are the Council. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. "Perhaps," Thax-9 said quietly. "It is time for someone else to rule." The words hung in the air as another human attack sent shockwaves through the ship. The Korthan statement was the first time any Council member had openly questioned their right to power. On the human side, the battle was proceeding exactly as planned. Dr. Elena Vasquez, monitoring the engagement from the command ship, watched as psychological warfare proved as effective as their weapons. "Admiral, we're intercepting panic signals from across their fleet," she reported. "Multiple species are questioning Council leadership. Some ships are abandoning the formation entirely." This was the crucial element of human strategy that the Council had never understood. Humanity was not just fighting a military campaign, but a war for the hearts and minds of every species in the galaxy. Every Council defeat weakened their claim to absolute authority. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Stone's intelligence network had been broadcasting footage of the battle to oppressed worlds across Council space. The images of mighty Council ships being destroyed by small human vessels spread like wildfire through alien communication networks. On the water world of Aqueos, the aquatic population watched in amazement as their Council overlords fled from battle. On the gas giant Vrex Prime, younger Vrex began questioning why their leaders had never shown such courage. Even on peaceful worlds like Lumina, energy beings who had never considered rebellion started asking uncomfortable questions about Council rule. The turning point came when the Eternal Light's shields finally collapsed under sustained human fire. Captain Jennifer Morgan, commanding the USS Thunder, led the final assault that crippled the massive crystal ship. "Target there. Power core," Morgan ordered. "Disable but do not destroy. We want prisoners, not martyrs." The carefully aimed shot sent cascades of energy through the Zelathi ship's crystal structure. Systems failed throughout the vessel as Zethka and the other Council leaders found themselves trapped in a powerless hulk. "All Council ships, this is Admiral Kane of the human fleet." Kane transmitted on all frequencies. "Your flagship is disabled, and your leaders are our prisoners. Any vessel that continues to fight will be destroyed. Any vessel that withdraws will be allowed to leave. The response was immediate. Council ships throughout the formation began breaking off from the battle, their commanders unwilling to risk destruction for leaders who had proven incapable of protecting them. Within 2 hours, the mighty Council fleet was scattered across space. Some ships limped away with battle damage, others fled at maximum speed, and a few drifted powerless after their crews abandoned them. The human fleet, despite being outnumbered 15-1, had achieved complete victory. Kane stood in the transport bay of the USS Retribution as Council prisoners were brought aboard. Zethka's crystal form was cracked and dim, while Vashku had been contained in a special holding field. Thax 9 walked under its own power, its compound eyes studying the human soldiers with what might have been respect. "You have violated the fundamental order of the galaxy," Zethka said weakly. "Chaos will follow your victory." "The only chaos," Kane replied, "is in your minds." The emergency session of the Council's remaining leadership took place in a hidden bunker deep beneath Zentros Prime. Only 6 of the original 12 Council species still supported the old government, and even among those there was growing panic and desperation. Regent Kethva, speaking for the Zalathi in place of the captured Zethka, stood before the assembled representatives with its crystal body flickering dimly. "Fellow Council members, the situation is worse than we feared. 37 worlds have declared independence in the past week. Our fleet strength is reduced by 60%, and human forces are advancing on multiple fronts." Prime Coordinator Yeshbu of the Vrek swirled anxiously in its containment field. "The humans must be stopped before their rebellion spreads further. We still have our ultimate deterrent." The room fell silent as everyone understood what Yeshbu meant. Hidden beneath Zentros Prime was the planet-killer weapon that the Council had used 3,000 years ago to destroy the Nexari homeworld. It was their final option, a device so powerful it could crack a world in half. Sub-Commander Vax 7 of the Korthans clicked its mandibles nervously. "Using the planet-killer against Earth would prove our strength, but it might also unite every species in the galaxy against us. Better to rule through fear than not to rule at all," Yeshbu replied. "We activate the weapon and demand immediate surrender from all rebel worlds. They will submit or watch their planets burn." Unknown to the Council, their conversation was being monitored by human intelligence. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Stone had managed to place listening devices throughout their facilities during the chaos following their military defeat. Every word was transmitted to the Human Command Center on Kepler 442b. Ambassador Morrison stood in the underground command facility, his face grim as he listened to the alien discussion. Around him, his key advisors processed the implications of what they had just heard. "A planet-killer weapon," Dr. Amanda Price said quietly. "I've seen references to it in the captured Council databases, but I thought it was just a legend." "It's real," confirmed Dr. Elena Vasquez, pulling up historical files on her screen. 3,000 years ago, the Council used it to destroy the Nexari homeworld when they refused to surrender. It's what ended the last great Galactic War. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. "Can they actually target Earth with it, Lieutenant?" Commander Katie Brooks checked the intelligence reports. "According to our sources, the weapon is built into Zentros Prime itself. It's powered by the planet's core and can strike targets anywhere in the galaxy." The implications were staggering. Despite their military victories, humanity still faced potential extinction if the Council decided to use their ultimate weapon. All their tactical advantages would mean nothing if Earth was destroyed. "How long until they can fire it?" Morrison asked. Stone consulted his intelligence network. "The weapon requires massive amounts of energy to charge. Based on power fluctuations we're detecting, probably 72 hours. Morrison turned to his team, seeing the same determination in their faces that had carried them through the past year of secret preparation and open warfare. "Then we have 72 hours to end this war permanently." Across the galaxy, Admiral Kane was leading the combined human and rebel fleet toward Zentros Prime for the final assault. The fleet had grown dramatically as more species joined the rebellion against Council rule. Luminian energy ships provided power for the human vessels, while Aqueos water ships supplied resources and the amphibious species' natural coordination abilities. Captain Oliver Kane stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, now the flagship of the Liberation Fleet. Around him, displays showed hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all united in their desire to end Council tyranny. "Admiral, we're receiving final reports from our scout ships," announced Lieutenant Jamie Sullivan. "Zentros Prime is heavily defended. The Council has pulled back their remaining forces to protect the capital." Kane studied the tactical information. The Council's final stronghold was protected by energy shields, orbital defense platforms, and the remnants of their fleet. It would be the most difficult battle humanity had ever fought. "What about the planet-killer weapon?" asked Commander Marcus Reed. "Dr. Price's team has identified its location," Kane replied. "It's built into the planet's northern continent, disguised as a research facility. We'll need ground forces to disable it while the fleet deals with their orbital defenses." The assault on Zentros Prime began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. The Liberation Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, human ships leading the charge while their alien allies provided support. The sight of so many different species fighting together against their former oppressors sent shockwaves through the Council's remaining defenders. The battle in space was fierce, but brief. Council ships fought with desperation rather than skill, and their outdated tactics proved no match for the coordinated assault. Captain Jennifer Morgan led a squadron of human destroyers against the orbital platforms, while rebel forces from 6 different species attacked the Council fleet from multiple directions. On the planet's surface, the real challenge began. General Patricia Young led the ground assault against the Planet Killer facility. Supported by troops from across the galaxy, the facility was defended by automated systems and the few remaining loyal Council forces. But they had never faced an enemy that combined human tactical thinking with alien abilities. Major Scott Davis coordinated air support while Sergeant First Class Linda Kim led demolition teams into the heart of the facility. The weapon itself was massive, stretching deep into the planet's crust and powered by energy drawn directly from the planetary core. "This thing is incredible," Dr. Price reported over the communication system as she examined the weapon's control systems. "The technology is thousands of years ahead of anything we've seen before." "Can you disable it?" General Young asked from the command post. "Better than that," Price replied. "I can turn it against their own strongholds. The Nexari built this weapon with multiple targeting options. We can use it to destroy the Council's remaining military bases while leaving populated areas untouched." The irony was not lost on anyone. The Council's ultimate weapon, built to destroy worlds that refused to submit, would now be used to eliminate the Council itself. On Zentros Prime's surface, the final confrontation took place in the Council's Great Chamber. Ambassador Morrison, now leading the diplomatic mission to accept surrender, stood before the remaining Council representatives. Regent Keith Va's crystal body was barely glowing, its spirit broken by the realization that 3,000 years of dominance was ending. "You have destroyed the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known," the alien said bitterly. "We've destroyed a tyranny," Morrison replied calmly. "What we're building to replace it will be better." Prime Coordinator Yeshbu swirled weakly in its containment field. "And what is that? Human dominance instead of Council rule?" Morrison shook his head. "Something that never existed before. A galaxy where every species has an equal voice, where decisions are made by consensus rather than force, where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward with a datapad containing the charter for the new galactic government. "The Galactic Alliance will be governed by representatives from every member species. No single species will have veto power over the others. Disputes will be resolved through negotiation and, if necessary, by democratic vote." The Council representatives looked at the document with confusion and suspicion. The concept of true equality between species was alien to them after millennia of hierarchical rule. "This will never work," Subcommander Vac 7 clicked. "Species are not equal. Some are naturally superior to others." "That's exactly the kind of thinking that led to this war," Morrison replied. "Every species has unique strengths and abilities. The Luminians understand energy better than anyone. The Aqueos have mastered cooperation. Even humans have something to contribute. What could humans possibly offer? Kethva asked with what remained of its arrogance. Morrison smiled grimly. The ability to say no to tyrants. 5 years later, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The Galactic Alliance operated from a new capital on the neutral world of New Geneva, where representatives from over 200 species worked together to govern their civilizations. Admiral Kane, now Fleet Admiral of Alliance forces, stood on the observation deck of the USS Horizon as it patrolled the outer rim of Alliance space. The ship was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining the best technologies from dozens of species into something greater than any single civilization could have built. Admiral, we're receiving long-range communications from the Andromeda Galaxy, reported Lieutenant Commander Julie Park, his communications officer. Multiple transmissions warning about what they're calling the human threat. Kane smiled as he read the intercepted messages. Galactic confederations in neighboring galaxies had taken notice of the species that had overthrown 3 millennia of established order in less than 2 years. Some viewed humanity with curiosity, others with respect, and many with fear. What's our response? Park asked. Standard diplomatic protocol, Kane replied. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements.